So, ladies and gentlemen, we heard from Sean McDermott yesterday at the NFL Combine, and we did a full unpacking of everything that he had to say. And today, we actually ended up hearing from Brandon Beane, general manager. Last time we ultimately ended up hearing from him was at the end of the season press conference. But today, we are going to unpack everything that he said, what he hinted at, and what to expect for the Buffalo Bills during the NFL Combine. Some other contract extensions that I'm sure a lot of us are curious to see whether or not are getting closer to the finish line, and much, much more. Folks, if you are just tuning in, my name is Dan Mitchell. I post NFL content each and every single day, twice a day, Monday through Friday on YouTube, all across other platforms as well. If you are watching the replay of this, I highly recommend that you go on ahead and you turn on bell notifications, because I want you to be a part of my live chat community. All right, folks, I do a variety of topics around the NFL, around the Buffalo Bills. So go on ahead and subscribe, and more importantly, smash that like button. It helps me out tremendously. But yes, Brandon Beane sat with several reporters in Indianapolis during the NFL Combine, and he touched on the extension from Khalil Shakir, which happened just a couple of hours ago. We did an impromptu breaking news stream on the channel, uncovering that in full. So once you're done with this video and want to hear what we had to say, or what I had to say about that, certainly tune in there. He also ended up shedding light on James Cook. He also ended up shedding light on some specific prospects, his success in the mid rounds, right? Von Miller, you name it. We are going to be unpacking everything that he said. I do need to give a giant shout out to today's sponsor to begin with, folks. I have to introduce you guys to Kalshi. It is the #1 prediction market on the face of the planet. If you are trying to bet on literally everything, I'm talking politics, culture, crypto, economics, companies, weather, tech, you name it, Kalshi is the place to do it. All right, look at that. All right. Will Trump declassify the Epstein documents in the first 100 days? You can bet on that. Top U.S. iPhone app tomorrow. Who will visit the White House before April? Dana White or, wow, okay, Ben Salmon. I have no idea who that is. Anyway, they did ultimately end up launching sports as well. So I highly recommend you go on ahead and you check this out. I am giving you a free $10 just by signing up, as long as you use my code Don Mafia. Link is pinned at the chat. It's also in the description. Shout out to Kalshi for being a proud sponsor of today's channel. Anyway, Brandon Beane hit the podium, and here are some of the biggest takeaways that we saw from him. All right. Now, he did end up teasing that more extensions could be on the way. We saw that Khalil Shakir ultimately ended up signing around a $60 million contract extension, guaranteed at around $32 million. And this was a Brandon Beane move, because we ultimately ended up getting our wide receiver one, our #1 target for our MVP quarterback, at $15 million a year average annual salary. He's sitting at the 23rd highest paid wide receiver in his class in general, all across the league where it stands. And that is prior to free agency. That is prior to what some of the moves I'm anticipating that will happen once the new league year begins, March 12th. And let's be honest with ourselves, it's the legal tampering period is when you get all of the juicy stuff. I will tell you that. But a solid deal from Brandon Beane. And when asked about how some of these other contract extensions are coming, he said that he's had several conversations today. Some haven't began, but now it's all a guessing game. Who is he going to prioritize? And I'll tell you what, Brandon Beane, in Brandon Beane fashion, he completely threw a curveball, right? Because for days on this channel and all across other Buffalo Bills beats, we were sitting here and we were trying to predict that, oh, it has to be Gregory Rousseau, because he is on his 5th-year option, have to move some money around to help today's cap. Several of us thought it would be Benford. Several of us thought that it would be Bernard. Several of us thought that it would be James Cook, since he has been added into the drama of whether or not he is worth $15 million per year. But from what we understand, a couple of conversations have been going unanimously. So I would not be surprised in the slightest if this extension is not the only one that we hear about this week by itself. I showed you guys something earlier on my Khalil Shakir stream, but I was actually scrolling through Instagram, and I ultimately ended up seeing an Instagram story from James Cook. And granted, if we want to say that this is a subliminal message, we could. However, I think it's something to look into. As you can see, we have the James Cook Instagram story. It has a picture of him during the Kansas City Chiefs matchup. And this is certainly telling because a couple of days ago, he ultimately ended up taking a lot of the pictures of him in a Buffalo Bills uniform off of his feed. However, with this picture, as you can see, he ended up utilizing this emoji right here, which is an hourglass and a smiling demon, almost a mischievous sort of, I'd say, tonality. Does this mean that his agent is deep in talks with the Buffalo Bills right now and they are inching closer and closer to a deal? Stay tuned. But from what we understand from Brandon Beane, it sounds like he has been teasing some conversations are currently going, right? Some haven't started, as he said, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are not going to get done. It is a long off season, if you will. Now, additionally, speaking of James Cook, he ultimately did end up addressing this situation. Much like Sean McDermott addressed it yesterday, Brandon Beane had this to say, quote unquote, just because we aren't on the same page now doesn't mean we won't be in 2 weeks or months. He always prefers keeping business in house, but loves and respects James, and he's a grown man and can handle it the way that he believes best. As it stands today, we would not be under the salary cap when it comes to our overall salary cap situation. So, based off of this, very similar, very similar response that we heard from Sean McDermott. He thinks the business is going to take care of itself. They have spoke nothing but positive praises for the running back over in Buffalo. And an additional sense is that where it stands, and we're still waiting on the final number for the NFL salary cap coming up here shortly. Hopefully, it's around 283 million. We are still not under the cap. We are still over the cap slightly. And mentioned while we were excited about the Khalil Shakir extension, it did virtually nothing for the Buffalo Bills' current salary cap situation. So, something to consider there. He ultimately also ended up addressing Von Miller. He's still working through whether or not that Von Miller is going to be on this roster. I think that we can all agree that Von Miller has been a subject of conversation for us for the past 2 years. What can we do about this guy who just hasn't been the same since he has come back from injury? I do want to give credit where credit is due because Vaughn had a much better year in 2024 than he did in 2023 coming back out of injury. However, if you were to ask a lot of Bills Mafia, a lot of us would be okay walking away from the guy. But again, there's really no money saving opportunity in releasing him unless it is post June 1st. And the only reason that we would want to release Von Miller is in hopes that we could get some additional cash so we can use that in free agency. We could use that in perhaps going on ahead and restructuring a contract or maybe having another extension. If the overall purpose is creating money that we can spend in free agency, us waiting until June 1st to release Von Miller is redundant and just does not make sense. So I will continue to say that I think our best option for Von Miller is just approaching him and hoping and praying that he will take a significant pay cut that could open up some of that money so we can go out and pursue the Hollywood Browns of the world or perhaps make a blockbuster trade for a Myles Garrett. I'm still holding on to hope there. So have no fear there. Now, as far as trading, he was asked about trading. Is a trade, a blockbuster trade, going to be in the Buffalo Bills' future? And he says this: anything that's right that can help our team, I am not going to flinch. Folks, hide the tissue, hide the lotion. It sounds like that if the right opportunity comes, that the Buffalo Bills will make the move. Yes, that means Max Crosby. Yes, that means Myles Garrett. If Brandon Beane can make this work financially for either one of those game-wrecking defensive linemen, it sounds like that if you were to ask him, he is going to make whatever potential move that he can make. Last topic that I really want to shine on is that we were asking, or several of the media members were asking Mr. Beane why he was so successful within those later rounds. And he said, quote unquote, our coaching staff does a great job of taking what they have at finding the strengths. And that speaks volumes, right? Like we can go back and we can look at several classes like 2022, for example, which I think was one of our best draft classes, minus Kyer Elam, of course. He was the one that really kind of ruined it. But when you can find Khalil Shakir, Benford, and Bernard right in the mid rounds, that just goes to show you what this scouting department and what this front office has ultimately been capable of accomplishing ever since they ended up taking over that era. So, biggest takeaways that we've seen so far: several players are in conversations for an extension. Some have not come to fruition yet. Does not mean that it's not going to happen. Von Miller, they're still working it out. So there's a lot of question marks of his future at the Buffalo Bills. Brandon Beane is not afraid of a trade if it's something that will impact the team in a positive light. And then last but not least, he trusts his scouting department. He trusts his front office and being able to find a bunch of home runs in the middle of the NFL draft. Now, folks, again, if you are watching the replay of this video, I just want to let you know that if you want to be a part of this next segment of my show where I turn to the chat to have drive the conversation, ask me questions about today's topic, etc., have to go on ahead and hit that bell notification sign so you can be a part of the live chat. In fact, you know what? If there is anybody new to the live chat community, if this is your first time catching me live, please let yourself be known. And yeah, welcome into it. Vaughn only. Carly is coming on in, and I believe Carly does not want anything to do with Von Miller either. But we shall see. Dan has been grinding today. Scooby, man, let me tell you what, my friend. Listen, bro, I am live twice a day, sometimes 3, and then I post about 5 or 6 TikToks a day as well, man. The grind never stops, baby. So smash that like button if that is what we are looking for. I think we should trade up in the draft. We have Emily coming on in. You know what? I would love that, right? Like, I would love for us to go ahead and trade up into the teens where we can get a for sure, right? Because one of the downsides of being a good football team is that we never really draft at a favorable position. It always has to be a roll of the dice. And make no mistake, yes, there are 32 picks in each and every single round of the NFL draft. But in the first round, very rarely are there 32 first round graded players in the first round. So it's a lot more difficult for teams toward the end, 25 and beyond, to actually find first round value. A lot of the times it's an absolute gamble. But knowing Brandon Beane, he's probably going to trade down, knowing that fool. I feel like we can do that. James Cook is going to the Chiefs. Ray Luxiak is coming on in and saying that he is going to the Chiefs. I think that's just speculation at that point is what we are looking at. I do not believe that is going to happen. Blockbuster move, sign Garrett or Parsons. Watt would be a good addition. Okay, we got our wide receiver in Shakir. Now we need to sign defensive players, build a Super Bowl winning defense. So I'm going to tell you what, Garrett certainly makes sense because he's super affordable. He has no guarantees at this point, so we can make that work financially. Parsons doesn't even really necessarily fit within our defensive scheme, so I'm going to pass on that. And I don't believe that TJ Watt would even be available, right? I think Max Crosby would be available, would fit into our scheme. Right now, when it comes into edge rushers, and there's really only 2 that I believe I would roll the dice on, and that is Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. Now, Myles Garrett, obviously, because we're going to get that 13, 14 sack production, and it's going to be cheap because there's no guaranteed money associated with his contract right now. He already said that he'd be willing to take a pay cut. And Max Crosby, because obviously he's 27 years old, he's in his prime, and I would be willing to go on ahead and eat some of that contract because I know that's the sort of production that we would get almost immediately. What's up, Dan? Hope all is well, big dog. Love that we got Shakir for what we got him for. Go Bills. And I mean, look, we ended up finding a hell of a deal from Shakir, okay? Because when you look at Spot Track, his market value is like $20 million a year, and we got him at $15 million a year on average annual valuation. So massive move. I think that Khalil Shakir would be a well over 1,300-yard receiver for any other offense. But obviously, we know how Brady likes to sort of, number one, run the football as his predominant sort of mindset. And then on top of that, it's an everybody eats sort of mentality. So that's kind of my thoughts here. 90 watching, less than 30. Smash that damn button, Ray. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Folks, please do me a favor. Smash that like button on your way in. Super easy to show a little bit of love over here. It takes 2 seconds to get it done. What do you think about Gronk possibly unretiring to play for the Denver Broncos? I think this is nothing but a publicity stunt, to be completely honest with you. He's 36 years old. I think that he would give the same production as Travis Kelce at this point, maybe even a little less. I really think it's a publicity stunt. I don't think that he's going to come back. Even if he does, I don't really see him being the Gronk of the past. Dan, Pete Carroll might be trying to trade for Geno Smith from the Seahawks. Reason, I think this is he had a long meeting with Mike McDonald and Josh Schroeder, Seahawks GM, while he was over at the Raiders. Could be interesting. I'm not necessarily sure. The Chiefs are cooked with their cap space. They have some very difficult decisions to make. Indeed. I agree with you, Carly, about Vaughn. Lamb K, what about your Bills trade for Jonathan Allen, or my Cowboys get Allen? Where would be a better fit for you? So a lot of people are really on top of this Jonathan Allen thing. His run defense is less than ideal right in my eyes. Like, he's had like maybe 1 or 2 quality seasons at being able to bottle up the run. And you know what? This Buffalo Bills team has really only ever invested in a free agent and or a veteran at the one tech defensive tackle position. I want to, for the first time, so to actually draft a one tech and develop the one tech and not have to resort to free agency. So hence why I haven't really been entertaining a lot of moves for existing veterans in free agency and or a trade at that position. I really like a lot of the defensive tackles that are in the first, second, and third round, so I would much rather resort exclusively over to the draft. I agree with you about Vaughn. Noah is coming in saying, Beane sadly makes it seem like Elam will be here at least one more season. I didn't get that. But then again, does that mean that we're just stuck with the guy, right? Because what kind of draft compensation are we going to give for him? And what would be the dead cap? Right? I think that that's it. Don't sleep on Omar Norman Lott, 18.9 pass rush win rate, top defensive tackle in the draft. He penetrates more than anybody. I'm going to have to check him out, man. Listen, I have been very high on Walter Nolan. I have been very high on Derek Harmon. And then obviously Kenneth Grant as well, but he is projected to go very, very high. In fact, I honestly think all 3 of those defensive tackles that I listed off won't even be on the board by the time that the Bills pick does get around. But I mean, like I said, I'm really hoping that we can land one of those dudes. What's up, Dan? How would you feel about the Bills signing Joey Bosa if released? Man, I'll tell you what. How I feel doesn't necessarily matter, but I'm trying to look at like a realistic perspective, right? Because all of us are really excited about potentially getting Myles Garrett and or Max Crosby. And I hate to jinx us now, but like I know this team, right? I know this team. I think it's going to be Joey Bosa. And so to be completely honest with you, I'm not saying that I'm going to be like celebrating this, okay? I'm not saying that I'm going to be celebrating this, but prepare yourself. I think Myles Garrett is going to sign with a team like the Washington Commanders or maybe the Philadelphia Eagles, like some team in the NFC, because the Browns are going to want to at least ship him over to a team that's in the NFC. I think Max Crosby is going to stay put like right over in Las Vegas. And ultimately what will happen is that we bring in, I'd say, Bosa for like a very modest contract, like $7 million a year, 3-year for 21. And what's going to happen is that he's going to play for like 5 games and get hurt. Like, that's more than likely, I think, what's going to happen. I hope that that's not the case because his ceiling is still there. His production is there when he can stay healthy, but dude's made of glass. Like, dude just can't stay healthy. I don't know. Unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen. Bills trading Mitch Trubisky to the Titans for a number 1 overall pick and Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, damn, Emily. Look at that. Highway robbery for the Tennessee Titans, man. Let's hope that guy's drunk. Send him on over. That is a fair trade, if you ask me. What is Joey Bosa's stats look like? When he's fully healthy, he's up there, right? But I don't think he's played a full season since 2022 last time I checked. Like, he cannot shake the injury bug each and every single time. Does he get 10 plus sacks per year? I mean, say that he stays healthy. Yeah, he's pretty solid. Bills, throughout my years of watching football, have had one true wide receiver every single season. Andre Reed in the 90s and Eric Moulds in the 2000s and Peerless Price, T.O., now Shakir. We are good. Lamb K Prods. Also, Dan, if you have to rank these three quarterbacks worst to best, where would they go? Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud, and Tua. Wow, Lamb. Okay, we have our Cowboys fan in here. So worst is Tua. Two is CJ Stroud, and one is Dak Prescott. One is Dak Prescott, man. 5 sacks last year. He played like 7 games, though, I want to say. I think we should trade for the Cowboys pick. I mean, listen, if Jerry Jones is open to it, and then I would be fine. But like, all right. So here's something that I have beef with, and so the Bills, right? I was trying to make sure that didn't come out the wrong way. I feel like so many times this Buffalo Bills team, like, we go into the first round or we go into the second round and we're just like, okay, no matter what, like, we need to walk away with a defensive tackle, or no matter what, we need to walk away with a corner. And that's a dangerous mentality, because typically what happens is that we find ourselves in a Kyer Elam situation. That's exactly what happened in the 2022 NFL draft when we saw Trent McDuffie was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs. And rather than us looking at the board and looking at our complete needs, we just ingrained it right in our minds that we needed a corner. And we ended up drafting a corner that had no business of ever fitting into our scheme in the first place. So how I'm looking at this overall situation is as if, say that we stay put, and if all of the defensive tackles that we have already named, or defensive tackles that we have first round grades on, are gone, don't pick a defensive tackle just because. Like, don't. Like, say that we need a corner, like, grab a first round graded corner, or grab a first round graded wide receiver, or grab a first round graded safety. Whatever we do, don't go into this draft with that mentality of being like, no matter what, we have to walk out with the defensive tackle in the first round, because that's how we screw ourselves. So I'm really hoping that we've learned from our mistakes and we're not going to see that situation again. That's why I think we have so many issues when it comes into landing on first round prospects. That's me. Okay, I officially like this man. Dan is the best behind Tom Grossi. Sorry, man, you are number 2. Lamb K Prods is what it is, man. That is great company to be a part of. I appreciate that. North Slope, Alaska, baby. Go Bills. Doug, man, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for tuning in, bro. For real. Agreed. We have Andre Carley is saying Elam was such a bust. He still is. Can we get him off of the roster? I think that's a different conversation. And you Bills, keep your hands off a Genty pick. If Jerry trades it, I am staging a coup. Trade Elam to the Kansas City Chiefs. Wouldn't that be ideal? Wouldn't that be ideal? All right, folks. That's going to have to do it. Just a brief little stream today. I wanted to run it by you guys that we had the Brandon Beane interview. As a reminder, I can only imagine a lot of you are tuning in to the replay. So what I am going to suggest is that you turn on bell notifications, so that way you could be a part of our live chat community. I'm live twice a day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. EST, 5:15 p.m. EST. And like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I have a breaking news segment. I love each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow morning. See you soon. Bye.